This video is brought to you by
Cool green clothing coming straight up out of that DMV. You know what it is. This that Baltimore designer right here. Come on now, come and show some love and show some support. Go online right now, coolgreenclothing.com, and make your purchase. Oh yeah, by the way, if you ain't cool and getting the green, you're in the way, and that's just basic.
It's your girl, Mrs. Tony Two Times, and I'm back with another episode of the Baltimore Way. In this video, I'll be taking it back to 1998 to discuss the hit-for-hire plot that involved a mother-in-law seeking revenge on her daughter-in-law in an effort to help her son not lose custody of the couple's only child. But before we get into this video, please hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future uploads. And of course, feel free to share this video with everyone you know. Also, if you'd like to see more episodes of The Baltimore Way, please click the link to the playlist in the description box after this video to get caught up. All right, let's get into it. Love and marriage in the honeymoon phase can be wonderful and captivating. Two have now become one. The beginning of life together is blissful. You even see each other's flaws and quirks as beautifully unique. Dealing with life's issues don't seem to be as stressful in the beginning. Then, as the years go by, life changes start to take place, and maybe children are added to the union. The fairy tale soon becomes a stark reality. The flaws and quirks you once saw as tolerable is now unbearable. Life's issues and the changes that come along with it now seem impossible to get through. For some marriages, it's the test of time. The marriage's foundation either strengthens or the foundation crumbles. For 35-year-old Sarah Williamson Raras, she was faced with a crumbling foundation in her marriage that cost her her life. Sarah was born near Cape Canaveral, Florida. She grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico with her parents and older sister. Sarah was extremely intelligent and had an IQ of a genius. After graduating high school, Sarah was accepted into the New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology in 1980, where she earned a degree as a mathematician. After college, Sarah took a technical job at the White Sands Missile Base. She got married to her first husband and soon followed him to Maryland. Not long after moving to Maryland, Sarah's first marriage hit a rough patch. They were young and things didn't work out, so they decided to get a divorce. In 1987, Sarah got an amazing career as a statistician with the National Security Agency in Fort Meade, where complex foreign military codes are deciphered. Sarah loved her job and made very close friends, including her best friend, Laura. While Sarah was thriving at her job and had made wonderful friends, she felt like something was missing. It was always Sarah's desire to have a family of her own. She just needed the perfect man to make that dream come true. Sarah began taking classes at Johns Hopkins University to earn her master's degree in statistics. There, she fell for a younger classmate, Lorenzo Raras. Lorenzo was described as very smart and friendly, similar to Sarah's personality. Lorenzo worked for a major telecommunications company. He was also pursuing a master's degree at Johns Hopkins. He was a native of the Philippines. He migrated to America with his family when he was 18. The family was very close and held tightly to their Filipino customs and values. Both he and Sarah shared the same desire to be married and start a family. The couple dated for a few years before getting married on September 7th, 1994. They moved to a beautiful home in Elk Ridge, Maryland, 20 minutes south of Baltimore. 3 years after Sarah and Lorenzo got married, the couple had their son. It was important to Sarah that both her and Lorenzo's family have a strong bond with their child. However, since Sarah's parents were living in Alabama, Sarah relied heavily on Lorenzo's family to help out with the baby. She especially leaned towards her mother-in-law, Amelia Rares. As time went on, Sarah and Lorenzo started having problems in their marriage. A new baby can be a big change. Your routine changes, and sometimes couples have less time to spend with each other. Lorenzo started to become resentful towards the fact that all of Sarah's attention would go to their son. He became quite controlling in a sense. His attitude towards Sarah had changed drastically. Sarah reached out to her mother-in-law for help on how to handle things with Lorenzo. However, Amelia was not so willing to get involved in their marital problems. She basically sided with her son and told Sarah she needed to make it work for the child. 6 months after their son was born in January 1998, Sarah called police when her husband allegedly made threats against her life, according to the document she filed seeking a protective order. She told police she feared for her life because her husband had been diagnosed with depression but was not taking his medicine regularly and owned several guns. According to records, Lorenzo Rares later sold the weapons. Things only seemed to escalate between Lorenzo and Sarah. On June 27, 1998, Sarah, while holding the baby, told her husband she wanted a separation. In court documents, Sarah said her husband began to mistreat her in a violent manner, and that as she went to call 911, he grabbed their son, became violent with her, then rushed out of the house. Sarah said Lorenzo told her that she would never see their son again. Sarah said later that she was blackmailed into having relations with Lorenzo twice that weekend in order to see her son. But according to Lorenzo, he was trying to reconcile with her and that no force was involved. Days later, Sarah obtained a protective order against Lorenzo after she alleged that he continued his erratic behavior towards her. A judge prohibited Lorenzo from contacting Sarah and ordered him to leave the house. He went to live with his family in Baltimore County. 2 months later, a Howard County judge signed an order giving custody of the child to Sarah. Lorenzo received visitation every other weekend and on Wednesdays until 8 p.m. Anytime Sarah would meet Lorenzo to drop their son off, she would always have someone accompany her and meet him in a public place. While the arrangement seemed to be working for a while, less than a month later, Sarah told the court that Lorenzo had threatened to take their son to the Philippines and never return. Sarah called the State Department to try to block the application for their son's passport. Instead, Lorenzo's attorney agreed to hold the passport, prohibiting Lorenzo from taking the child overseas. Lorenzo nor his family was okay with the possibility that he may not gain full custody of his son. He argued in court that he should be the child's primary caretaker. He accused Sarah of having an affair with her boss and said he had read romantic emails between the two. He also said Sarah often did things to keep him from caring for their son. A court hearing on the divorce was scheduled for December 3rd, 1998. But before that court date would happen, the situation would take a dark and twisted turn. Sarah's mother-in-law, Amelia, was not happy with the fact that Sarah and her son were going through a nasty divorce and custody battle. Amelia felt strongly about having her grandson be a part of their family at all times. Males are favored in the Filipino culture because they carry on the family name, and she saw Sarah as a threat to that custom. She also felt like Sarah was disrespectful towards her. In her culture, mothers are revered and given the utmost respect. She felt like Sarah didn't uphold her in that way, especially during Sarah's pregnancy, when Amelia claimed Sarah basically told her to back off. Amelia felt like that was a slap in the face. She was highly offended. Amelia was a nurse and had a master's degree in the field. She worked at a nursing home facility and would often bring her grandson in to show her coworkers. One coworker in particular was the laundry attendant, 19-year-old Ardell Tickles. Ardell was a young man who had ties to the NOI. He had a rough upbringing and was a part of the foster care system for most of his childhood, where he experienced horrible mistreatment. Nothing a child should have to go through. With no parents or guidance, he would sometimes find it hard to see the severity of the consequences his actions could cause. However, he did have one person in his life that tried to keep him on the right track. A man who was like a father figure to him off and on for 5 years. Ardell was fond of ninja mythology and had a disdain for white society. When Ardell met Amelia at the nursing home, he referred to her as his Black Asian sister, and they seemed to build some sort of bond with one another. One day, Amelia told Ardell this far-fetched story of a Caucasian woman who had caused the loss of a pregnancy of a Black woman who was her friend by pushing her down the stairs. Amelia knew the tale would infuriate Ardell based on his beliefs at the time. She later asked him if he could do something for her and offered him $3,000 to take this woman's life for what she had done to get revenge for her. Amelia went so far as to drive Ardell to the home where Sarah once shared with her son to show him where Sarah lived. With her plan and payment in place, Amelia sat back and waited for the deed to be done. When the weekend of November 13th, 1998 came around, Sarah met with Lorenzo to hand off their son. Lorenzo and their son were going to be spending the weekend at Lorenzo's family home with his brother and father. Sarah and her best friend went shopping that weekend to help take Sarah's mind off the divorce and the tumultuous custody battle. Sarah was constantly in fear of something happening to her or her son, but tried her best to cope through it all. On Sunday, November 15th, 1998, Sarah was home alone when at around 8:30 p.m., someone broke into her home through a front window and brutally attacked her. In an attempt to call for help, she speed dialed her friend Laura, inconspicuously leaving a voicemail on Laura's answering machine. When Laura hadn't heard from Sarah, she called the police to conduct a wellness check. When Sarah checked her voice messages, that's when she heard a message left by Sarah on the night of November 15th. The voicemail basically captured Sarah in what sounded like some sort of struggle. When officers arrived at Sarah's home in Elkridge, they found signs of forced entry to her home and located Sarah severely wounded with multiple cuts and slashes. The scene was horrendous. There was a shoe print on the carpet. They also found the murder weapon in Sarah's yard, a 9-inch machete. Sarah had been viciously slain. The first suspect that came to investigators' minds was Sarah's husband, Lorenzo. When police spoke with Lorenzo, he denied any involvement and said he had been with his son all weekend and on the night Sarah was slain. Lorenzo was very matter-of-fact and showed little to no emotions when he learned that Sarah was gone. There was no evidence tying him to the scene, and he was alibied by his father and brother. When DNA was tested from the crime scene, it came back as a match to Sarah and that of an unknown male. Investigators tested the unknown DNA against Lorenzo, and it didn't match his profile. Lorenzo also pointed at the possibility that it may have been the man he accused Sarah of having an affair with, but that was a dead end, and there was no evidence that an actual affair took place. They also looked into Sarah's first husband, but that also didn't pan out. Sarah's case went cold for months, and the community was in a panic that a dangerous person was still on the loose. Until there was an unsuspected break in the case on June 1st, 1999. Howard County Police received a call from neighboring Baltimore County Police about a call they had received from an inmate in the Baltimore County Jail. The inmate said he had a new cellmate who had been bragging about a slaying that sounded similar to Sarah's case. The informant later wore a wire and asked his cellmate about the slaying once more. The voice on the other end was 19-year-old Ardell Tickles. Ardell can be heard detailing the gruesome slaying and saying how Sarah was begging for her life. He called Sarah out of her name and showed no remorse. When the informant asked Ardell why he did it, he said, "The lady where he was working at told him, 'I'll give you $5,000 to go hit this lady off for me,'" Ardell replied. Ardell didn't mention Amelia Raris by name. Instead, he referred to her as his Chinese patron and his Asian black sister. He told the informant she had told him she's scared of this woman and she paid him to take her life. When detectives confronted Ardell with the tape, he basically confessed and said he didn't know Sarah personally and said it was a hit for hire. Detectives showed Ardell photos of Lorenzo's brother and father, but Ardell said he had never seen them before. Detectives then showed Ardell a picture of Sarah holding her son. He confirmed that was the woman he was hired to get rid of. When he took a closer look at Sarah's son, he recognized him as the little man that his coworker Amelia would bring to work with her. He was stunned because he had no idea that Sarah and Amelia had a family connection. Ardell explained to detectives how he took Sarah's life. He told police that Amelia was aware that he was a part of the NOI and about the story she told him about Sarah causing the loss of a pregnancy of one of her friends and that she wanted revenge. He told detectives that Amelia paid him $3,000 to commit the hit. Ardell was charged with first-degree hit and conspiracy. After Ardell confessed, police brought 63-year-old Amelia Raris in for questioning. Amelia told detectives that Sarah was not very nice to her and that Sarah practically spit in her face. Amelia expressed how she felt disrespected, especially when Sarah was pregnant. Investigators soon learned Amelia's true motive was the baby. Amelia was hell-bent on doing anything she could to keep the baby in the family. When detectives asked Amelia about Ardell, she claimed she thought he was going to go to Sarah's to throw stones at the house, like in biblical days. But detectives thought, why pay someone $3,000 to throw stones? Amelia claimed her son Lorenzo was in no way involved. When she was arrested, the police wiretapped the jailhouse calls. However, there was never any proof that he had any involvement in Sarah's slaying. On June 12, 2000, Ardell Tickles pleaded guilty and was convicted of first-degree murder. He was already serving 25 years for an unrelated charge of attempted hit after shooting his former boss when he worked at McDonald's. He was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole for the slaying of Sarah Raris. The life sentence will start after he completes his 25-year sentence. After his conviction, Ardell did show some remorse after learning that Amelia had lied and manipulated him to take Sarah's life. Those close to Ardell believe Amelia played a motherly role to Ardell, knowing his past of not really having his mother around. In the end, Amelia used Ardell and never really cared about him. The judge gave Ardell the possibility of parole due to his age and his turbulent background as a child. As for Amelia Raris, she pleaded not guilty and went to trial in January 2001. None of her family members came to support her. Amelia tried to present herself as the victim and a God-fearing, Bible-toting Christian. However, the jury saw right through her facade. After they deliberated for 18 hours, she was found guilty on first-degree hit and conspiracy for the hit for hire. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. It was the first time she had shown any emotion as she dropped her head into her hands and sobbed. Since her conviction, Amelia has tried multiple times to be released from prison, stating that she should not have to spend the rest of her life as an elderly woman behind bars. She said she has learned her lesson and has become less angry and more religious. She believes she should have the opportunity to be with her family when she leaves this earth. However, her requests were denied. Lorenzo Raris was granted custody of he and Sarah's son after she lost her life. He passed away in February 2023. At the time, he was living in South Carolina. He remarried and had 3 more children. To this day, Sarah's family still believes that Lorenzo was involved in her slaying. My well wishes and belated condolences go out to the family and everyone affected by this terrible tragedy. Some of my takeaways from this story is that marriage can be challenging, and sometimes people's behaviors and patterns can change over a period of time. Stay aware and never say what a person won't do. I believe Sarah was genuinely scared for her life and the possibility of losing her son, and tried to do everything she could in a legal sense to keep herself safe. Also, be very mindful of marrying into different cultures. Make sure you have a true understanding of what you're getting yourself into. Is it something that you can align yourself with? Can you adapt to their customs and values, and vice versa? And finally, Amelia's intentions were evil and self-centered. In my opinion, she still got exactly what she wanted. She also manipulated an impressionable young man to do her dirty deed. But Ardell is still responsible for his own actions and could have told her to kick rocks. There is so much more to say in this case, but fam, I'm going to leave the rest of the commentary up to you. Tell me your thoughts and opinions on this story in the comments below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of the Baltimore Way. Thank you all so much for making it to the end. Leave a broken heart emoji or any heart emoji down in the comments below to let me know you made it this far. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times. Until next time.